Now we'll learn about how to implement the CRUD method. So first we'll see how to implement the getEntity and the getEntitySet method. So what is the difference between getEntity and getEntitySet? The getEntity we have to use when you want to fetch the single record from the DB, and getEntitySet we have to use when you want to select the multiple records from the DB. So for getEntity method to get trigger, it is mandatory to pass the primary key from the front-end system. Suppose here in our table, here we have only one key field, that is VBELN. So when you pass VBELN, system will trigger the getEntity method. And if we have the multiple key fields, then we have to pass all the key fields system to trigger the getEntity method. And to select the multiple record, we have to go for the getEntitySets. There are different methods how to select the data based on the non-key fields that we'll see in the upcoming session. So in this we'll learn those two methods, getEntity and getEntitySet. So after registering and maintaining our service, here in the runtime artifacts, double click here on the DPC extension class. Go to change mode. Here at the bottom we can see all the methods based on the entity set. Here I have only one entity set, so I can see for the SO header sets, create entity, delete, get entity set, and the update entity. So those methods are repeated for each and every entity set. So first we implement the getEntity. Put the cursor here, and if you are not in the change mode, first click change mode, and here click on the redefine, because the DPC extension class is an inherited class from the DPC class. That's why we are redefining the method here. Click on redefine. Remove all this predefined code from here. Now in the getEntity method, our first job is to read the input values which will be passed from the front-end system. So to read the input values, here there is a table called IT_key type of this type. You can copy this line type from here. If you double click here further, so you can see two fields. One is name and second is value. The name is the name of the parameter like VBELN, ER date, etc. And the value will contain the value for say sort of number, date, etc. So our first job is to read the importing parameter with the IT_key type, and once we read the importing parameter, then based on that we have to select the record from the database table and pass the record to the ER_entity. If you see here, this is the importing, means those values will get from the front-end system, and this is exporting, means this structure system will return back. Now what are the fields in this structure? For that we can see here the TS_header. Yes, click save. So here you can see the TS_header is of type ZOVBAK, because we have defined our structure based on this table structure, and this is in the MPC, that is the model recorder class, which give details of all the fields data model. So what is our job? To read the importing parameter value using this table. So for that, first let me define one local structure, key type, pair value, and I'm also defining one more variable to read the SO number VBELN of type VBELN. Now read the importing parameters. Suppose there are multiple key fields, then you have to read the multiple key fields from this table. Read table IT_key type into my local structure. with key name. What is the name of my parameter? This is a case sensitive, so we have to give the exact same name which is there in our data model. So here for this we had the VBELN only V capital, remaining all in small. So we have to read the values with the same type, VBELN, and if let's say system has found some value using those parameter, if value is not initial, and if what we are doing, we are reading the importing parameter with the field VBELN, and if the value is found, always use the conversion axis alpha input. So by chance, if the leading zeros are not passed from the front-end system should identify the record. So after reading the value, first assign to our local variable VBELN equals to is underscore value. Here I am using the conversion axis alpha input. Now based on this SO number, we will select the value from our table. Select single all from ZOVBAK into corresponding fields of, and passing into the ER underscore entity, into corresponding fields of ER underscore entity, where VBELN equals to my LV underscore VBELN. Save and check if any errors are there. So no errors. First activate. So I will explain again what all activity we done in this. So first I have read the parameter IT underscore key type with the parameter name VBELN, and if the value is found, I am assigning the value to a local variable of type VBELN. Then I am selecting the record from the table to the single structure ER underscore entity. Now to debug, set a debugger external breakpoint here, because when we are doing the debugging for the OData service, we have to set the external breakpoint. Activate the service, go back. So here we can see this is in the black color because we have re-implemented, redefined this method. Remaining all we can see the light blue color. Go back. Now to test the service, right click, click on maintain. Go to SAP Gateway Client. Select our entity set. Select the get method. Now suppose if I am not passing any key field here, and if I execute, system will give the error 501 that is not implemented, because we have implemented only get entity methods, and that will get trigger only if you are passing the key field. So how to pass the key field? For that, here we have to pass the SO number. Let's say 1, 3. So this is how to pass the key field value. Get method, execute. So now we can see our debugger is triggered. Double click here, IT underscore key type. You can see one value inside this VBELN. So if you observe here, even though I not pass the VBELN here, but this is the beauty of this framework. System automatically identify the values. Okay, so now we are reading this value. This value is found. Yes, this is the VBELN. Do the conversion axis alpha input. Press effect. So this time we can see the status code is 200. This means that system has successfully triggered the get entity method, and we can see the output. If you observe this date here, this is in the XML format. You can see all the fields here. So this is how to implement the get entity method. And suppose in case we want to read the multiple record, then we have to do that through the get entity set that we'll see in the next session. So this is how about to implement the get entity method.